Hello everyone. Just like most of you, I'm stuck at home during this crazy corona crisis. If you're like me, you're constantly trying to find things to keep yourself busy. Some of you are playing video games, some of you are watching Tiger King and other fabulous shows on Netflix, and some of you are actually being productive and taking care of those projects and chores that you've been wanting to knock out. Well, I've been doing all of those things, but the best part of being stuck at home is the time I've had to do one of my favorite activities, baking. I've baked every day for the last 2 weeks. I've baked many of my old faithful recipes, but I've also been trying lots of new recipes. If you grew up in the South like me, I'm sure pound cake was a staple at many of your family gatherings. When done correctly, pound cake should be moist and buttery with a texture that seems to melt in your mouth. There are a million variations of the pound cake, but simple vanilla seems to be the most popular. Today, I'm going to show you how to bake one of my personal favorite pound cake variations, the ultimate cream cheese vanilla bean pound cake. First, I'm going to give you a little background information on pound cake, plus some tips and tricks to help you get the perfect bake. Second, I will go over the ingredients needed for this recipe. And third, I will show you how to put it all together to create something yummy and delicious. To start with, I want to give you some background information on pound cake and also provide some tips and tricks that might be helpful. The pound cake has been around since the 1700s. It came from Northern Europe during a time when food needed to go a long way. Pound cake gets its name because the original pound cake called for a pound of each of its 4 ingredients: butter, flour, sugar, and milk. A cake that size could feed multiple families. Today's families prefer a somewhat smaller cake, and the original recipe has been modified over time. Pound cakes can be baked in different kinds of cake pans. The most common pans used for pound cakes are the tube pan, the bundt pan, and the loaf pan. Tube pans are the most traditional pan used for pound cakes. The straight sides help give the pound cake the golden crust that is so loved. Bundt pans give a fancy fluted look to pound cakes and are a popular choice for many bakers. And loaf pans are great if you don't want a huge cake or if you're making pound cakes as a gift for the holidays. The variety of flavors and flavor combinations of pound cakes are endless. Flavoring extracts like vanilla or almond are very popular choices for pound cakes. Citrus fruits like lemon and orange can be juiced and zested to add a burst of flavor, and let's not forget the different world that chocolate offers. Many modern recipes call for sour cream or cream cheese. These 2 ingredients help make a moister cake while giving it a hint of lovely tangy flavor. Many recipes call for dried fruit or nuts. Some recipes call for icing or glaze, while others are best on their own. Despite the variations that alter the character and taste drastically, the term pound cake is still fondly used. One of the most important things for any recipe is to make sure you read the entire recipe before you begin. Husbands don't like going to the store at crazy times because you are midway through a recipe and realize you forgot something. All of your ingredients, except for any milk, should be at room temperature before you begin mixing. Butter and eggs at room temperature will blend together more easily and will ensure that you get a good result. Always make sure that your oven is preheated to ensure that your cake bakes evenly. And don't open the oven door until your cake is baked for at least 3/4 of the recommended baking time. The rush of cold air that hits the cake when the door is opened could cause your cake to collapse. Now that you know a little more about pound cake, let's move on to ingredients and supplies. I've mentioned that you should read the recipe in its entirety before beginning any recipe. Another good idea is to get all of your supplies and ingredients gathered and prepared. For our wet ingredients, we will need 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese, 1 cup unsalted butter, 6 large eggs, 1 tablespoon vanilla extract, that's 1 whole tablespoon, and 1 cup heavy whipping cream. Don't forget, you will want to let your cream cheese, butter, and eggs reach room temperature before mixing. Our dry ingredients include 3 cups of granulated sugar, 1 vanilla bean that has been split with the seeds scraped and reserved, 3½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. Confectioner sugar is optional if you want to garnish the top of your cake. You will need several items to help mix and bake your cake. I use my stand mixer with the paddle attachment, but you can use a hand mixer if you don't have a stand mixer. You can use whichever style cake pan you choose, but I prefer the traditional tube pan for this recipe. You will also need an additional large bowl, a whisk, a liquid measuring cup, dry measuring cups, measuring spoons, a knife to even out your measurements, a spatula, a toothpick or bamboo skewer for checking the cake's doneness, tinfoil, and a wire cooling rack. You will also need something to prepare the pan with to ensure that the cake doesn't stick. The traditional method is using butter or Crisco to lightly coat the pan, followed by a dusting of flour. For pound cakes, I love using the cooking spray that has flour added. I know my grandmother is probably rolling over in her grave, but the spray is much easier and makes much less of a mess. Since we have all of our ingredients and supplies together, let's move on to the fun part, the actual mixing and baking. Baking is like science and art all mixed together. When carefully crafted, you will have something truly enjoyable. First of all, don't forget to preheat your oven to 325. In a large bowl, you're going to whisk together flour, baking powder, and salt. Set this to the side. Whisking together the dry ingredients distributes the leavening agents like baking soda and baking powder evenly throughout the cake batter, resulting in a good, even rise. Now, with your mixer, beat the cream cheese and butter at medium speed until well blended. Add your sugar and beat until the mixture is fluffy. This usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes. Make sure you stop and scrape the sides of the bowl several times during this process. Add the eggs one at a time, making sure you beat the mixture well between each egg. Add the vanilla bean seeds and vanilla extract and mix well. Gradually, add your flour mixture to your wet butter mixture, alternating with the heavy cream. You should start and end with the flour mixture and beating until just combine after each addition. Over mixing at this step can cause too much air to get into the batter and can lead to a falling cake. Spray a tube pan with the baking spray, spoon the batter into your pan, and bake your cake in the center of the oven for about 1 hour and 20 minutes or until a wooden pick inserted near the center comes out clean. You may need to loosely cover your pan with tinfoil halfway through to prevent excessive browning. I personally like my crust brown, so I don't usually use the foil. When your cake is done, remove from the oven and let the cake cool in the pan for about 10 minutes. This allows the cake to firm up a bit and prevents it from falling apart. Now you can remove the cake from the pan and allow it to cool completely on a wire rack. You can dust the top of your cake with confectioner's sugar if you like. You now have completed all the steps in baking a delicious pound cake. In conclusion, let's summarize our pound cake adventure. We talked about the history of pound cakes and learned some tips and tricks. We discovered what ingredients were needed for our pound cake, and we learned how to put everything together for an awesome finished product. So, if you're looking for something to do, don't forget, you can always bake. I hope you will be inspired to try baking a pound cake. Not only will you pass the time, but you will end up with something delicious that the whole family can enjoy, if you decide to share it with them. And remember, calories don't count in a time of crisis, so you can have your cake and eat it too. Stay safe and have fun baking. Thank you.